Ceasefire by Rose Mackey. Copyright 2025. All rights reserved. The story so far. In the distant future, Earth has exploded into the galaxy, colonizing dozens of planets, the colonists adapting their own genetic structure to thrive in their new homes. Pholosia and Verit are two of these planets. Philosians are empaths, and the planet has a majority female population. Their few males are cosseted, petted and adored, but are not viewed as suitable long-term partners. Verit is also matriarchal, but there are very few females left. Those that remain have formed a vicious ruling class, controlling the mercenary clans of feline shifter males. The diaspora of human-descended planets and species work together as part of a xenophobic alliance, pooling their shared economic, social and military power against aliens. 4 years ago, Pholosia and Verit came together to co-sponsor a new colony named Dalat, hoping to establish a safe place where their peoples would be able to find mates and address their declining birth rates. A Philosian commander, Petre-De, was appointed governor, while the matriarch of Verit agreed to the appointment in exchange for Pholosia funding the colony establishment. The traditionalist faction of the Verit matriarchs, led by Maman Bylelle, resisted the arrangement. At first, the colony worked better than either group could have hoped. Despite some initial social friction, the Philosians and Verit colonists blended well and began to find mates. However, a rare, highly valuable mineral called xylan was discovered on the planet. In investigating the xylan, the colonists discovered something even better: an ancient sentient alien ship. The ship, Casti, bonded psychically with one of the Philosian colonists, Zira. The discovery was a double-edged sword that threatened everything they were trying to build. When word got out, the little colony suddenly faced an onslaught of thieves and pirates from every corner of the galaxy, descending on their backwater planet. To protect the colony from the alliance that sought to steal their planet, as well as the plethora of other aliens after them, Petre-De entered into an arranged mating with the alien Dusin Markenroy, prince of the Malurian Empire. They fell deeply in love, and the massive Malurian Empire threw the weight of its power behind the colony, protecting it. Dalat, once a quiet colony, has become the centre of a rapidly developing scientific research base and trading post. Aliens of every description are beating down the proverbial door, desperate to trade for xylan and gain the secrets of ancient alien technology, which Casti has been reluctant to share with what it perceives to be dangerously immature species. The introduction of the partnership with the Malurian Empire has also destabilized the already fragile Philosian-Verit balance of power. The Philosians, through the Maral-Markenroy pairing, now have the controlling influence on the colony, and the traditionalist Maman are increasingly frustrated with the state of affairs. Worse, the political climate on Verit is heating up. The males are becoming increasingly resentful of the ruthless Maman and their abusive ways. The situation is delicate, balanced on a knife edge and ready to explode. Power and politics. Petre sat on the hard bench in the plain grey corridor, his ass slowly going numb. If he had been at the Maman offices on the Verit homeworld, he would have been waiting in their imposing council chambers, all dark stone and polished marble designed to remind supplicants of their place in the matriarch's world. Instead, he waited outside the small colonial offices assigned to the Verit Maman delegation on Dalat. Describing them as rustic was being charitable. His escort, Verit, stood against the opposite wall, affecting a casual indifference that had always irritated Petre. He desperately wanted to punch him in his smug face. Verit looked up as if he sensed his thoughts and flashed him an arrogant smirk. "I wonder why they're making you wait so long," Verit asked, examining his nails with exaggerated interest. Petre ignored him and watched a 10-legged orange insect crawl slowly across the floor, dragging the still-twitching carcass of a smaller insect behind it. As an allegory, it was quite the reflection of his own situation. He'd been summoned to attend the Maman Council on Dalat. Even these days, when Maman Bylelle's influence on the Verit colonists was slipping, it wasn't smart to disobey. The Datalka clan's 2 years of relative freedom on Dalat had sent ripples throughout Verit society, and more than one clan was watching to see which way things would fall. How hard and fast the Maman would jerk the choke chain when they made their move to pull their errant males back into line. Perhaps that explained why he'd been left waiting for over an hour, as a petty display of power. Even if it was petty, he sat and waited politely. Even with her influence reduced, only a stupid male underestimated Frey. He had no intention of committing suicide by Maman today. He took a deep breath to quell the unease churning in his stomach. A private audience with a Maman rarely ended well. He couldn't afford to show any weakness. They scented it like blood in the water. "They're ready for you," Varian announced. "Try not to embarrass yourself." Maman Bylelle waited in the doorway, her golden hair adorned with a diadem, her formal jacket glittering with metallic thread and semi-precious stones. As she motioned him in with an elegant head tilt, Petre did his best to keep his instinctive revulsion firmly to himself. Bylelle always reminded him slightly of a snake. She preceded him and took her seat next to the others. They were all in full regalia, 3 Mamans seated behind the long conference table like judges at a tribunal. He wondered if they knew how absurd they looked. Maman Frey sat in the centre, flanked by Bylelle and Skara. Frey was cast in the same mould as Bylelle, though illness had burned the softness from her frame, leaving her resembling nothing so much as a hunter eyeing its prey. Beautiful, golden-haired, and entirely vicious like all Maman. Petre-De. Maman Frey's voice carried easily in the small conference room. "Your work overseeing the colony's infrastructure expansion has impressed us. We are gratified that our clan's investment in you has paid dividends." He stiffened at being reduced to just an investment, but kept his face carefully neutral. After all, it was only the truth of how the Mamans saw their males. "Thank you, Lady Frey. We have a task of great importance to assign you." He braced himself. Here it comes. The Maman never gave compliments without wanting something in return. "I am honoured to serve, ladies. As if I have a choice. Governor Morale," Bylelle's voice dripped with disdain, "will shortly announce a new infrastructure project. With the increasing numbers of colonists and Xylan prospectors, we urgently need to expand food production. As senior administrator, you will lead the project." She smiled tightly. "This project has been granted permission to work with Casti and to utilize technology it has agreed to share." His jaw dropped. Casti. The ancient alien ship was the most significant technological discovery in 1,000 years, and it was notoriously selective about sharing its advanced technologies. "That's incredible. I wasn't aware we'd made any horticultural breakthroughs with Casti." The implications were huge. One of their biggest challenges was that local food wasn't digestible by most species without medical intervention. The colony required expensive off-world supply chains and labour-intensive hydroponics bays to support itself and the growing number of visitors. If Casti had technology to solve this, "You will lead the implementation," Frey continued, overseeing a team of specialists working with Casti directly. "That's it?" He almost laughed, giddy with relief. "Why all the cloak and dagger?" If he'd known about the project, he would have jumped at the chance to work with Casti's technology, along with half the scientists and engineers on the colony. "Certainly, Maman. I will make arrangements to reassign some of my current duties." I am not finished!" Frey's hiss cut through the air like a whip. "You will be given unprecedented access to Casti. The project personnel will be granted time aboard ship and a lab to experiment with, merging its technology with ours." She leaned forward. "You will use this access to gather whatever information you can on its advanced tech. That machine guards a wealth of technology, and it's refusing to share." She settled back, adjusting her robes with deliberate precision. "Get us technology we can use. You will share this information with us alone." "But that would violate the colony charter. All Casti discoveries are meant to be shared equally." "The colonial alliance is none of your business," Frey snapped. "I do not care about the other parties. I care about the safety, security, and prosperity of Verit." Skara spoke up for the first time, frowning at her Maman sisters. I think this is a misstep. The colonial alliance benefits us already. This could jeopardize. Don't be so naive, Skara. Bylelle's voice was caustic. The cadets mating was a political move designed to diminish our influence. She thumped her hand on the table for emphasis. Every day our traditions erode further. The Phalosians and their alien allies push their ideas, their ideologies onto our people. Skara shook her head, unwilling to back down, and Petre was reluctantly impressed. He hadn't had much to do with Skara over the past few years, but his impression of her had been as a polite, dutiful ghost. She floated around, running Frey's errands, and didn't cause waves. Apparently he'd missed a trick. She had grown some claws of her own. I really don't think this is a good idea. This is the first time Casti has offered to share with us any of its technology. If it discovers that we are stealing from it, we may never get the opportunity again. Bylelle snorted in derision. How will it find out? You all act as if it is omnipotent. It's a machine, an ancient AI. We just need to be cautious, that's all. Maman Frey held up a hand, silencing the debate. Ladies, we have had this discussion and made our decision. She fixed Skara with a steely glare. My word is final. You will implement our decision. She glared at Petre. As for you, we are not asking your opinion. You will do whatever is necessary to provide us with access to technologies we can use. We will keep our own counsel on what to do with them. I understand the desire to access Casti's technologies. Its strategic importance, he tried. But surely there are other ways. You are valuable to us, Petre, but not indispensable. She smiled thinly. Neither is your brother, Lucan. Consider what you say next. Oh, goddess Lucan, his brother, his twin. And if the technology proves dangerous, he asked. It was a monumentally risky idea. Casti's tech was so far beyond anything he had, it was like giving a toddler a laser rifle. Then you will make it safe, Maman Frey said simply. If I am discovered, I'll be arrested, he protested. Bylelle's eyes glittered, enjoying his squirming. Then don't get caught. This was a disaster waiting to happen. They were asking him to betray everything he believed in, to put a stain on his honor that would never be expunged. Respectfully, Maman, I decline. I won't do it. He stood, coldly furious. I'll go to the governor. Sit down! The command bypassed his brain and went straight to his legs, which obeyed through years of training. He thunked back down into the seat. Frey laughed, a brittle sound that held no warmth. Running to morale might save you and your brother, yes, but what about your father? The blood drained from Petre's face. What are you talking about? When was the last time you spoke to him? Frey's smile was razor-thin. Have your messages been going unanswered? I wonder why. His heart stuttered. If you've hurt him, he's perfectly safe for now. Frey fixed him with an impassive stare. Whether he remains that way is up to you. Frey waved at Skara. You'll begin immediately. Skara will provide you with an encryption crystal and a psychic block. The psychic block will ensure that Casti or the Phalosians cannot read the intent in your mind. Bylelle will be your contact and will monitor your progress. And Petre? She paused. Remember, this is about protecting our people, our ways. That's worth some small ethical flexibility. He clamped his mouth shut to stop himself from making any more foolish statements. Skara stood and silently handed him over a small crystal, refusing to meet his eyes. Nope. No support there. She motioned for him to bend forward in his chair and produced a slim grey tube. She pressed it to the back of his neck just below his skull. I'm sorry, she whispered. This will hurt. She activated the tube and a spike pierced his spine, freezing his muscles, locking him in place, pouring white-hot fire through his nerves. His vision swam, white spots clouding it, and for a second he thought he would pass out. After an eternity, he realized that the pain in his spine was receding, replaced by a new pain, as his abused muscles roared back to life, vicious pins and needles crawling over him. When his muscles had relaxed enough, he sagged over in his chair, panting for a minute before he dragged together enough energy to rise. Frey examined him dispassionately. Skara watched him, eyes wet with unshed tears, and Bylelle. Her eyes gleamed with fascination. Bitch. She was enjoying his discomfort. He met her gaze, and just for a moment, he let his anger show in his eyes and her lips curved slightly at the corners. Shit. What the fuck am I doing? The pain had made him dangerous and stupid. He was a Verit male, and his family's life was on the line. He couldn't afford to be stupid. If you've recovered, you may go. You have your orders, clipped Frey. He struggled to his feet, managed a haphazard bow and left the chamber, strapping steel to his spine and wobbling knees as he went. He could do this. He had to do this. What choice did he really have? To refuse would mean the end of everything he'd worked for, the death of the people he loved. He stumbled out into the hallway, barely registering Varian's sneer as he passed. His eyes blinked rapidly as he accessed his HUD and placed the call to his father. The call went straight to message storage, just as it had for the past 2 weeks. He'd assumed his father was busy, or the communications were glitching again. He tried again, just to be sure. Nothing. He called Lucan next. Meet me, now. What's going on? Are you okay? Petre thought for a split second. Just meet me now in hydroponics. He didn't wait for his brother's response. 20 minutes later, they sat in the hydroponics bay, surrounded by the white noise of water circulation that would cover the sound of their conversation. Petre relayed the situation. They have father, he said, his voice raw. I don't know how long they've had him, how long they've been planning this. Lucan's face was pale. We should go to the Cadet, or Lucius. Maybe they could... Could what? Storm Verit? Start a civil war? Petre shook his head. Morale isn't going to take on Frey for this. She might protect us, maybe, but she'd never put her neck out for father. It's an internal Verit matter. She has no jurisdiction there. And what would be the point by the time anyone reached him? He couldn't finish the sentence. So we do nothing. Just follow orders like good little pets. Help them steal from Casti. Lucan ran a hand through his hair in frustration. If we're caught... He let the threat hang. They both knew that if they were caught, they wouldn't survive. Frey would never risk them spilling everything under interrogation. She'd take steps to remove them as a problem before then. We play along, Petre said quietly. For now. We do what they want, keep father alive, and look for a way out. There has to be a solution we're not seeing. We'll figure it out, Lucan said finally. We have to. Petre grasped his brother's shoulder, but he knew their words rang hollow. The Maman had ensured his cooperation more thoroughly than any psychic block ever could. They'd always known exactly where to apply pressure to make a male bend to their will. They'd had generations of practice. First day jitters. Rowen pressed her forehead against the transport window, watching Dalat's violet-tinted landscape sweep past below. Her heart was doing its best to burst out of her chest with excitement, and she fought a losing battle to keep her anticipation in check, her fingers tapping an impatient rhythm against her thigh. Casti. She was actually going to work on Casti. The landing pad came into view, its polished surface gleaming in the late afternoon light. The twin suns of Dalat cast long purple shadows across the landing area, where construction drones buzzed in the distance, continuing the colony's perpetual expansion. She caught her first glimpse of her new boss for the next few months. Even from this distance, he was the image of a perfect Verit male, tall and strong, with a bearing that screamed authority. She studied him until he disappeared from view, the bulk of the flyer obscuring him. Remember what we discussed? Petre-De rumbled beside her, his massive frame making the transport seat look comically small. He's one of my best former students, but he can be prickly until you get to know him. Rowen shot him a quick grin. Don't worry, I'll be on my best behaviour. Fila, sitting on the other side of Broken, snickered. Broken huffed, not believing Rowen for a second. She grinned at him, smart male. As they descended the ramp, she got her first proper look at Petre-De. Holy shit, and the goddess be praised. He was stunning. He really was tall, even for a Verit, with the characteristic feline grace of his people and long lean muscle that his black uniform jumpsuit did nothing to hide. Shining silver hair was caught in a sleek knot at the nape of his neck, and piercing blue eyes that shone with intelligence sat in a face cut from marble. In another male, his regal demeanour and beauty might have come across as effeminate, but there was a darkness, an edge in his expression, and the way he held himself. She could absolutely picture him playing the evil genius in some hollow drama, with some ridiculously dangerous pet sat on his lap. But as arresting as he looked, it was the simmering anger that stood out. Petre-De, engineer and her new boss, was royally pissed. She couldn't quite read his emotional resonance. It was oddly muted. But she didn't have to use her mad empath superpowers to sense his disapproval as he looked her up and down. His formal bow was textbook perfect, but his jaw was clenched so tight she suspected she would hear it creak if she got close enough. Okay. What crawled up his butt and died? She adjusted her headscarf self-consciously, trying her best to tame the stubborn curls that had escaped during the flight. She wasn't great at prim and proper, didn't look anything like the Verit ideal of elegance, but she was present and correct. Besides, she was there as an engineer, not a fashion model. Lady Fila, Broken. Good to see you both. When Petre spoke, she was surprised that his words didn't emerge coated in frost. They were so stilted. He turned to Rowen to introduce himself. I am Petre-De, Senior Colony Planner for Infrastructure. Rowen May, she replied brightly, layering her voice with honeyed warmth. She nearly laughed out loud when his brow furrowed in surprise at her tone. Ha! Specialist in agricultural engineering, horticultural design and environmental systems. Oh, this was going to be fun. During the short transport ride to Casti, she couldn't help studying him when he wasn't looking. He was nothing like she'd expected from Broken's descriptions of his star pupil. Okay, the intelligence was obvious. She could see it in the way his eyes tracked every detail of their surroundings, cataloguing and analysing. But Broken had spoken fondly of him as a protégé. Prickly was one thing, but in person he was kind of a dick. She hadn't even done anything that would make him prickle yet. He could at least let her screw up before he decided he hated her. She caught him watching her in return and decided to break the silence. Have you been to Casti before? His perfect lips thinned, and for a second she thought he might just ignore her, but his ingrained Verit manners won. No, my lady, this will be my first visit. The formal title made her want to roll her eyes. Working on Casti was an opportunity of a lifetime. There was no way she would let some male's asinine behaviour ruin it for her. She'd been giddy with joy for the past few weeks, ever since she'd learned that she had been successful in her application. She pressed her fists against her legs to keep from gesturing wildly. I can't believe I got this project. Every engineer at the Phalosian Central University wanted this gig. She leaned in conspiratorially to whisper, I think it was Broken's recommendation that swung it for me. Petre seemed to have a permanent frown. Yes, Broken's reference was very complimentary. She glanced at Broken's broad back, then back to Petre with a mischievous smile. He's such a softy once you get to know him. Petre barked a surprised laugh. He shot a quick glance at Broken. My lady, I think we're not discussing the same male. Broken is a legendary menace. Never in my life have I heard him referred to as a softy. Broken peered at them suspiciously, and they both smiled politely, the picture of innocence. Broken huffed. Never take to the stage. You're terrible, both of you. Rowen winked at him. But we're keeping you young in your old age. She's right, you know, Broken. You act all like a datalka with a sore head, but we know the real you. Fila poked him in his chest and snickered at the appalled look on his face. There was no more time for chat, as the bulk of Casti came into sight from the viewport. The giant ancient alien ship hung half a scree in the air, motionless. Large avians flew around it and roosted in its crenellations, the matte black surface seeming to absorb the light. And it was massive, several times bigger than the colony ship. It was eerie, seeing something so massive, completely stationary, in the air. Its construction material defied classification, neither metal nor stone, but something else entirely, with gentle striations that reminded her of bark. "Incredible," she breathed, not caring if she sounded like an awestruck InGen. "I've read everything about it, watched the holo simulations, but nothing really prepares you. It's like a floating town." The airlock recognized their approach, flowing open in a manner that was decidedly alien. No human-descended engineer would design an airlock that looked quite so much like an organic orifice. It made her gorge rise, as did the high-intensity scanner they went through as they passed into the ship. Its green beam a shimmering shaft that felt like someone had brushed the hairs all over her body the wrong way. She glanced at Petre as the beam passed over them, and he snarled slightly, clearly disliking the sensation as much as her. When the flyer eventually landed, she took a shuddering breath. "Is it always like that?" Phila shook her head as they disembarked in an ordinary-looking landing bay, another flyer parked in the bay next to them. "No, only the first time. It's an extra security measure for the project." Rowen examined the landing bay. Everything was made of the same smooth, striated black material, a little like marble. From where Rowen stood, she couldn't see a single seam or individual deck plate. "Funny, it's not what I expected." "What did you expect?" Petre asked. "I'm not sure, just not this." She shrugged, studying the walls. "I guess more alien?" She reached out to touch the surface and Petre barked at her. "Be careful!" She couldn't help rolling her eyes at that. "It's a landing bay. I think they probably keep the poisons and weapons somewhere else, yes?" The rush of wonder as lines of light followed her touch was worth his concern. She laughed in delight, feeling the ship's subtle awareness brush against her consciousness. "See? The ship is alive," she explained, patting the wall affectionately. "It's welcomed us here and offered to share its tech. It will not harm us unless we harm it." They followed the corridor, low lights guiding them at each turn until it opened up into a circular chamber, an incredible research lab set up, waiting for them. The interfaces came alive at her approach. She rushed over to one. "Hey, she turned to him. "I'm sorry, what should I call you?" He paused for a moment. "You may call me Petre, lady, or Petre-De if you feel it's too familiar." She offered a tentative smile. Whatever his issue was, they had to work together. "All right, but only if you call me Rowen. No need to be formal." As soon as she said it, she wondered if she had crossed some unspoken Verit social rule, so she added, "Unless you prefer it. I don't want to make you uncomfortable." She felt his hesitancy before he said, "I would be honoured, Rowen." "Well then. Perhaps there's hope for Mr. Stick-Up-His-Ass after all." Rowen spun in a slow circle, taking in the lab and the control stations that had responded to her. "Casti," she called, "are you here listening to us?" A gentle voice sounded from all around them. "Of course, Rowen." Holy shit. Rowen did a little dance. "I just talked to an alien AI." She moved to the terminal. "And how should we address you, Casti?" "It feels rude just to speak to the air." "It does not matter to me, but I thank you for your consideration. Just speak aloud or call my name as you just did." Rowen was shocked to hear amusement in the AI's voice. In fact, she let her senses extend. She could swear that she actually felt amusement. That was impossible, wasn't it? Petre wandered up to one of the terminals and examined it. He prodded experimentally at a couple of displays. "I think the interfaces adapt to each user." Broken nodded and joined him. "Casti configures them based on your expertise and access level." He tapped in a couple of commands, though final authorization runs through the bonded navigators. Oh, the navigators, I heard about that. It's Zira and Odran, right? Broken nodded. It's fascinating how the AI can telepathically interface with them. None of our existing technologies can come close to replicating a true psychic interface. The best we have is nerve sheath induction. Casti spoke again. I have connected you all to the neural psychic link at the surface level to determine your basic requirements. You will need to vocalize questions or request a deeper bond through Zira if you would like a more responsive interface. Rowen studied the shifting display. The neural interface pathways must be incredibly sophisticated to allow for that level of customization. Is it purely reactive, or is there a predictive element? Petre blinked in surprise, impressed at her question. Both, actually. The ship learns from each interaction. Petre examined the console. What measures has Casti taken to secure the project? Broken's expression darkened. We've implemented additional safeguards. Most of the ship has been designated as a secure area, and Casti is authorized to take aggressive action to repel unwelcome visitors. Any unauthorized access attempts trigger countermeasures. Excellent, he murmured. And these measures extend to all research data? Everything is protected, Broken confirmed, though authorized users have significant access within their clearance levels. He fixed Petre with a questioning look. Your concerns about project security are noted but unnecessary. Just focus on the work itself. Of course. If we're done with the tour, let's start reviewing the project specifications. He brought up the project schematics on the main display. These are the preliminary plans for the new expansion. We are planning for an interconnected network of biodomes and open-air cultivation areas. We want to grow edibles of all varieties year-round, as well as medicinal plants. We haven't determined the site location yet, so there is some flexibility dependent on site-specific conditions. We also need to select the biodome technology. We're still waiting on Casti's specifications. Petre walked Rowen through the preliminary plans for each biodome and the concept for the different planting areas. The first task for us is to review the list of requested produce and confirm what we think is in and out of scope for the project. She smiled slightly. The garden. What? The project needs a name. We should call it the garden. He smiled back at her, his first genuine smile since she had arrived. I like that. Very well, the garden. She held out her hand for a datapad. Leave it with me. I'll have a reviewed scope of works within a few days. Petre's quarters felt oppressively quiet after the excitement of being on Casti. They were in one of the newer colony buildings, a Malurian prefabricated structure. It was sleek and elegant, a far cry from his original tiny colony quarters. The only thing that broke the perfect decor was a garish orange and pink climbing frame in the corner, complete with a small blue furred creature snoring peacefully in a little hammock. He stood at the window, watching the sky deepen into purple darkness, the stars pinpricks in the blanket of night. The psychic block at the base of his skull throbbed dully, a constant reminder of the absolute shitshow his life had become in just a couple of days. He gripped the edge of the window, fighting not to just claw the damn thing out of his head. When he spotted his brother, he took one look at him and headed for the small cabinet where Petre kept the good alcohol. Kina awoke from her hammock and chittered a greeting at Lucan, running over to clamber up his brother's leg. That bad? Lucan asked, pouring them both a measure of the amber liquid, fending off Kina's friendly pats. Actually, no. Petre accepted the glass, letting the familiar ritual settle his nerves. The project itself is fascinating. He took a sip. If I wasn't about to commit industrial espionage, I would be enjoying myself immensely. Did you learn anything about the security on the ship? Petre dragged his hands over his chin, scratching at the stubble. Only that it's locked up tight. Most of the ship is classified as secure. I'll have to try using my engineering clearance and see how far it gets me. Lucan frowned at him. That's not much of a plan, brother. Petre resisted the urge to snap at him. It's our only plan right now. He took a sip of the drink, holding the alcohol in his mouth, feeling the nip before it slid down his throat. Lucan slumped into one of the chairs, Keener settling against his chest. I might have a plan. An idea of a plan, anyway. What is it? Have you heard rumours of the Verit resistance? Lucan asked. Petre fixed him with a flat stare as he took the other seat. That's your plan? A made-up story to comfort young in the night? That's foolhardy, even on your normal scale. Lucan wouldn't meet his gaze. I have reason to believe they aren't made up. Petre lunged forward and gripped his brother's wrist, dislodging Keener, who ran back to her perch, chittering and scolding. What did you do? Lucan pulled his arm away with deliberation. Nothing yet. I have a contact. He paused. I might have a contact. That might lead us to the resistance. Petre looked at him, unblinking, before he huffed a laugh. You might have a contact that might lead to the resistance. That's the shittiest plan I've ever heard. Like you said, it's our only idea right now. Do you have a better one? Petre ground his teeth. Number not right now. But I'm sure we can come up with something, anything better than that. If you get caught with the resistance, if they exist, you won't be facing arrest. It'll be execution. Lucan took a deep swig of his drink. Well, let me know when you have a better idea. Right now, I'm going to pull this thread. Petre felt like screaming in frustration, but a lifetime together had taught him that changing his brother's mind once it was set was like trying to steer an asteroid. They had that in common. He sank back into his own chair. We might have another problem. My new staff engineer is a Phalosian. Lucan cocked an eyebrow at him. And? What's she like? Is she going to be a problem? Petre kept his gaze on the glass, studying the way the viscous liquid pooled on the edge of the glass. Capable, intelligent, funny. Lucan waited, and Petre met his gaze reluctantly. She might be a problem. Problems had to be dealt with, and he had no doubt that if he told his twin that the Phalosian presented one, she would not be at work tomorrow. Or ever again. His mind flashed a brief image of Rowen's smart, gold eyes, red hair curling from her hairscarf, and felt a pang of guilt. He felt Lucan's attention sharpen. What? Nothing. Lucan's innocent expression wouldn't have fooled a blind elder. Just noticed you didn't mention that she's pretty. I hadn't noticed. The lie felt clumsy on his tongue. Who was he kidding? His twin knew him better than he knew himself, and he certainly knew his type. The instant he'd seen his new engineer, everything in him had perked up in interest. She was flat-out gorgeous, small, curvy, smart, and sassy. He'd held himself in an iron grip to stop himself from pressing his face into her nape and scenting her when she leaned over to whisper to him in the flyer. Another thought occurred. Wait, you knew they'd assigned me a Phalosian engineer? Lucan's eyes sparkled with amusement. I noticed. I saw her before she boarded the flyer with Broken. Luke. The warning in Petre's voice was clear. What? I'm just making conversation about your new colleague. His brother's grin widened. Though I also notice you're not denying my observations. Petre set his glass down harder than necessary, anger and guilt churning. It doesn't matter what I notice or don't. She's Phalosian. And? And you know exactly what that means. Petre began pacing, his composure fraying. They're empaths, Luke. We can never be sure how much they sense, what they might pick up without even meaning to. If she senses what's going on with me. Lucan shrugged. I don't think it's that much of a problem. You've got the psychic block after all. Petre stretched his neck, feeling the tendrils of the neural block tighten. I have no idea if this thing will even hold up against her, or Casti's neural link. Lucan watched him. What are you going to do about it? I had thought to have her reassigned or just freeze her out, but she's Broken's protégé. He gave her a personal recommendation. Lucan grimaced. Neither of them wanted to go against Broken. No one would believe an incompetence excuse. Petre took a deeper sip of his drink. If I can't get rid of her, I'll just have to keep my distance. Try not to let her get close enough to sense anything. Do you think it'll work? He shrugged. I don't know, but it's the best I've got just now. You chase your ghosts. I'll keep my distance and find a way to buy us time. Petre moved back to the window, watching the first stars emerge. Besides, the engineer seems bright, happy. I won't be the one to cast shadows on that. You like her, accused Lucan. I don't know her, and right now I can't afford to. She's a complication and a distraction. Petre gave Lucan a withering glance. Seriously, I'm trying to protect your life here. You know, Lucan said, for someone so brilliant, you can be remarkably stupid sometimes. Despite everything, Petre felt his lips twitch. It's a gift. A curse, more like. Lucan stood, crossing to rest a hand on his brother's shoulder. Try to get some sleep. Tomorrow's another day of not noticing your pretty engineer. She's not my anything. Keep telling yourself that, brother. Lucan's grin returned as he headed for the door. I do not... Petre protested, but Lucan was already gone, his laughter echoing down the corridor. Alone again, Petre felt the pain pulse again from the psychic block. He thought of Rowen's bright smile, the way her enthusiasm lit up the lab, how her mind seemed to race ahead of everyone else's. Distance. The only safe option is distance.